And there we go. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Dream Chasers Interviews with the Future. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, joined today by my good friend, Louis O'Connor. I almost forgot to say, hi, Grandma. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're going to enjoy this interview. We're gonna dive in here today to a project that I'm very much looking forward to Louis speaking about, also working with him on. If you really want to go down this rabbit hole, you can look up the Lieberland Show, which is another podcast that I host, and recently had Louis on there. Known him for a few years now. Just a really good person to become friends with. If you like freedom, definitely someone you want to be friends with. Has done some really incredible things internationally. He's from Ireland, lived in Panama for a little bit. He's got kids that are technically Mexican, Panamanian, and I believe Irish. Just a really cool background and story. So actually, before we dive into Strategic Metals Invest, Louis, your company, and now the one that I'm going to be working with you here on, let's just get to know you first. Could you kind of tell our listeners about a little bit about what I'm talking about, which is you going from Ireland to Panama and kind of how you got to where you're at here today?
Sure. Great stuff. Good to see you, Adam, and good to be chatting with you as always. I look forward to meeting you on the road somewhere next year, whether that's North America or Central America or South America, or Europe.
Or who knows, maybe Dublin. I know we got to get a Guinness together.
That's right, yeah. The official drink of Lieberland. Until they make their own whiskey, that is. I'm Louis O'Connor. As Adam pointed out, I am Irish. My place of birth is Dublin in Ireland, but I have a Mexican passport, Panamanian passport, residence in Panama. Lived in Germany actually for 10 years and lived in Latin America for 20. And I'm back in Ireland at the moment, coming to you from Tipperary. Married, my wife is Mexican. My two kids were born in Panama and they're now here in Ireland, polishing up their Irish accents, which is great, And I'll explain a bit more maybe in a few minutes, but one of the reasons I'm here in Ireland, I haven't lived in Ireland for more than 6 months in the last sort of 20 years. So I'm here to start a business, and that's the business we're going to talk about. So it's sort of European based, but it's also offshore if you're North American. But I'll get into that in a little bit. We myself and Adam met through, I suppose, Lieberland initially. And I suppose I would class myself a libertarian, more just of an independent, really. The reason I landed and stayed so long in Panama is I think Panama as a country has the most qualities and sort of principles aligned with, that would be aligned with Lieberland of any country I've lived in. The state is not interested in controlling the people. Maybe they'll get around to that one day. Maybe they just haven't got around to it yet. But and all the time I was there, I had zero interaction with any officials, like, government representatives or receiving things in the mail with, stamps on them, usually looking for something. None of that. And that's because as a foreigner living there, my worldwide income was tax-free. And because I didn't, choose to do any business there, there was no tax returns or anything to do. So my goal at the moment now is to continue that, is to be a little bit more nomadic and spend some time. I think I mentioned it once before to you, Adam, the 5 flags, which is, be geographically diversified, but also diversified in business, in citizenship, in banking, in as many ways as you can. Have multiple passports, multiple residencies, maybe do your business in one country, but reside in another and be a citizen of another and do your banking in another. So that's my sort of what I call the 5 flags. I think I probably heard it from someone else. It's not an original term from me, but
we'll make it original now. That's good.
Okay, we'll own it. We'll take it.
I love it, Louis. And yeah, a lot of what you said there resonates with me, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners too. So want to dive in here with this angle, kind of let everyone know why is it that I personally, I've taken a lot of interest in working with Louis in Strategic Metals Invest. And then from there, I let him know, hey, we're going to have some fun here today, a little bit of like a webinar format almost. I'm going to shoot some holes in the project here, and Louis is going to answer some questions, and we'll kind of take it from there, because I really want you guys to potentially, join me on this journey of what I really feel like is a cool opportunity that not a lot of people, especially in North America, are even aware of from an investment perspective. So this is how it all happened. Adapia Dorico is a great friend. Shout out Adapia. I'm sure you're completely fine with me name dropping you here, but she's in one of my masterminds, and we have accountability calls. And she's like, yeah, I've been looking into potentially, buying some land in Panama. Long story short, that's where our conversation went. I'm like, I know someone in Panama. Reached out to Louis, I connected them. And I knew about Louis's new venture here, which is Strategic Metals Invest, and that he had kind of been inspired to go from Panama back home to make this thing work. That's, I don't know many people going from South or Central America to Europe right now. It's kind of like the other way around. So that's, to me, that says something already. And then I know through his conversations, he then relayed to me, hey, you know what? Seems like Adapia is a little bit interested in this. And for me, I've known her long enough to know that she's very intuitive and she picks up on trends and cool things before they really like take place. So I'm like, wow, okay. If Adapia is interested in this, maybe I actually should look a little bit closer too. So I really went through my interview that I previously had done with Louis. I had introduced him to a few other people in my network, and I realized from the other people's reactions when I introduced him to them, everyone had the same relatively similar level of interest. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe I need to kind of talk to Louis and take him up on his offer, which is like, hey, Adam, do you want to work with me? At first, I was like, I don't know if I have enough time. Now I'm like, okay, let's make this happen. So with all that being said, now, Louis, did I leave anything out there? Are you ready for me to dive into the fun questions about the project?
I'm ready, Adam, and I like the fact that you're going to, take aim and hit me, hit me hard and hit me often.
Okay, yeah, here we go, guys. So really, my first question for you, Louis, is when it comes to a business like this, or even just Strategic Metals Invest, like how long have you been in business? What's your experience? What's your track record?
Okay, good stuff. I'll try and lay a little bit of a foundation here, because I'm actually not convinced, but it's probably true that most or all of the listeners or audience that hear this will be hearing about this for the first time. So it's probably a good idea to give a bit of background as well, So first of all, we're talking about a completely new asset class. It's the same paradigm as precious metals. So if you just think of buying gold or silver, there's people, there's $34 trillion market cap in gold right now. And so people from all over the world are comfortable. They could go online and buy gold now. It could be stored in Singapore, it could be in Switzerland, it could be in Delaware, it could be in Panama. So it's that same paradigm, except the investor is purchasing and owning, and I stress owning because they physically own the asset. It's rare earth elements, also known as rare earth metals, also known as strategic metals. Some people call them technology metals. Now also in Europe, they call some of them, not all of them, 4 or 5 of them, they call the green metals because they're critical to sustainable energy and solar, wind power, electric mobility. So it's the same paradigm as gold and silver, except you own rare earth elements. You purchase them from a metals trader in Germany, and you store them in a Zollager, which is, it's just like storing in Switzerland. It's a duty-free zone, except it's in Frankfurt in Germany. What's important to know is the metals trader also provide the exit. I'm sure people are thinking, oh, what am I going to do with, like gallium, for example, is one of them. Gallium, you couldn't swipe on your screen here without gallium. There's about 12, maybe 13 now rare earth elements in one smartphone. So people are wondering, what's the point in me owning gallium? I mean, and you're right, what would be the point? The point would be that you could own them and resell, and the metals trader will resell them back to industry for you. So the exit or the liquidation of the asset is also in place and guaranteed. Now, How it came about is your partner, the person the company you're purchasing the metals from, are the largest metals trader in Germany, if not in Europe. And for more than 30 years, that is what their business is. And primarily today, that still is their business. And so it should be. So they buy and sell metals, they buy them from suppliers, they resell them back to industry. Siemens in Germany would be one of their clients, car makers, Apple, Samsung, you name it. These metals are, they're critically needed in all of our daily activities, So that's what they've been doing successfully for more than 30 years. But about 12 years ago, in 2010, they decided to open a side business. Now, that's probably too small a word for it. It's more than a side business, but essentially that's what they did. And they bought a bunker in Frankfurt, in the same Niederrad, in the area where they live in Frankfurt. It used to be an air raid bunker in World War II, funny enough, and they converted it to a vault. It's now a bank level secure vault with armed security and full insurance, and they also store precious metals there, by the way. But so they set this up in 2010, and since then they've only been offering this opportunity, not exclusively to, but only they've been offering it really in Germany and Austria and Switzerland. So they've done no marketing out in the English language or in any other language other than in German. So that's why nobody knows about it. Now, it hasn't been exclusive to, like if for some reason somebody did enough digging, they could probably find them and they had some international clients. So it wasn't like it was off limits to anybody. It was just they started it and they focused on their own market, which is Germany. Now, what happened then initially, they sold this, if you will, if that's the right word, just as a store of wealth, as a hedge against inflation, meaning they weren't sort of shouting from the rooftops, everybody's going to make loads of money and we're all going to rich. No. Actually, what they were saying was, you won't lose money here and there will be some appreciation and it'll be ahead of inflation. So it wasn't sold as a big, a huge return on investment. Now, things have changed though. Since about 2015, 2017, because of the high demand for rare earth elements in many different industries, but primarily modern technology. These metals are in all modern technology, in the screens we're using now, in iPhones and computers. They're also used in aviation and military applications, solar power, electric mobility, and wind power. So the demand has really been increasing, and supply is sort of limited and subject to disruption, which I'll get back to in a minute. So what they noticed was that the investors were happy. They were making 12, maybe 18% a year, and they said, okay, maybe we should expand the model. So in 2017, they decided they would increase the storage capacity in the vault, and that was completed last year. So they can now store up to 3 times the amount of metals they previously could, and have opened it up more internationally. And I've become their commercial partner or sales partner, if you will, for Ireland, UK, and North America. And so just right, this is the first time we're sort of openly talking, and we've only just begun. However, like just to give you an example, this year, on average now, there's 10 of the metals we offer, like 17 rare earths altogether, but some of them are not that rare. The 10 that we offer are relevant as a sort of a tangible asset. If you'd invested like a year ago, on average, you'd be up like 24.25% right now for the year, which is a great return for 1 year, Some of them went up 80%, the ones that are for electric mobility and sustainable energy. Some of them went up 8%, but we recommend people diversify and buy at least 3 or 4 metals. That way, if one doesn't perform so well, it'll all balance out. So that's basically the story so far. I'll let you do you want to hit me
Yeah.
with some more questions there? I
Yeah,
think I've
yeah,
covered the.
definitely. And thank you for laying the foundation there too. You did provide a lot of clarity, and yeah, just thank you. Thank you for diving in. So my next question would be, you talked about diversifying the metals, maybe getting a little bit of a few different ones or whatever. What does that process look like if someone were to invest? We'll just use an example number. If someone's to invest $50,000, are they responsible for diversifying themselves? Is that something that you, or should I say we, handle? Is it
Sure.
something that Tradium handles? What does that whole investment process even look like?
Good question. Yeah, good question. So it's a mixture of both, actually. One of my clients just recently from Chicago is an engineer and a sort of, I suppose you could say he's a geeky version, except in geology and rocks. He really knows the deal, and he knew exactly what metals he wanted, right? But for those of us who are not that familiar with it, what we would do first of all is give you a presentation on the 10 metals we offer and what industries they're being used in, you know.
Do you, real quick, do you happen to have the names of each of those metals in front of you right
Right
now? Or
now,
can you name them off? Yeah.
sure, sure. So you have gallium, you have germanium, rhenium, indium, and then you also have indium, and then you have what we call the oxides, which are the powdered form, which are the rare earth elements. So there's metals, and then there's elements which are the powdered form, which would be neodymium, terbium oxide, and praxeodymium as well.
You getting better at your pronunciation with those over time?
I don't. I hope so. I
It
hope
sounds,
so.
you
But
did
yeah,
well.
it takes a while to get it to get the tongue around them. You know, neodymium, for example. Um, there was an article only like you know the funny thing is, Adam, this opportunity is hidden in plain sight, right? Most most people don't. First of all, people don't know that you can invest in them. That's the my mantra from the beginning has been the only obstacle to investors making a profit from owning rare earth elements, right? It's not that they don't go up in value, they do. It's not that you can't do it safely and securely. You can, providing you're working directly with a bona fide metals trader. It's the only obstacle is that people literally do not know that you can do it. They just don't know. Because if you're to do it, like for example, you're probably familiar with a Google alert. You know, you can set up a Google alert. You can put rare earth metals, and you see all anything written about them. You know, you get newspapers from all over the world. If you were to do a Google alert, you'll see within a week or two, you'll get a look at what's going on in the industry. Just last week, the Wall Street Journal did an article, and the Guardian, I think, in the UK, and it was about neodymium and the fact that China produces and supplies more than 85% of the world's neodymium. And neodymium is a critical and irreplaceable metal that will be needed in electric batteries. So there's a huge story going on here that's sort of in plain sight. If you just dig a little bit,
Well, you
you'll
can
see
even,
what's going
it's in
on.
plain sight if everyone just looks at their phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without yeah, exactly,
How
exactly,
did
and
this get
exactly.
made?
You're touching gallium every day, you know.
Yeah. So interesting. And just the way you've, again, this is part of the reason why I've gotten
Let
on
me just say
board.
one thing, Adam, as well, just to finish that, which was if
Uh-huh.
you're not sure of what metals to go with, we will always ask Tradium in Frankfurt. You know, they have metals traders there who are doing this for 30 years, and they can give recommendations. Like I had a client last week who wanted to invest he wanted 4 or 5 metals, and he said, which one what do you recommend right now? Now that's important as well, because at any given time, the price, they might say, look, don't buy this one right now because the price is at this and we expect it to be here, type of thing. So we'll also get your recommendation. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was just to finish that
Yeah.
question.
No, thank you. Great point. Another little, I don't even know if you realized it, and or if I'm just behind the times, I haven't thought of doing this little investment hack. But the Google Alerts tip that you just gave, that can be used not only in this situation, but for, for all of our listeners, if you want to track any type of investment that you're looking into. I've never heard of anyone doing that before. Maybe it's maybe it's out there, but thank you for the.
It is, yeah, it
right
is. It's
there.
great. You get it. You get an immediate, like, for, as you said, you can pick any subject, any investment, and you'll get an immediate look at what's going on. It's I use it all the time for different stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that. So one thing that you mentioned to me before we did the call here today was in a way, for China, rare earth metals to China are what the oil industry is to Saudi Arabia. One, is that true? And two, could you elaborate on that?
Right. Well, this goes back to the late 1980s. At that point in time, and actually the premier of China at the time is quoted as saying exactly that, which is, he said, the Middle East has oil, China has rare earths. And back then, this is how far China is sort of ahead of the rest of the world. So back then, China decided they were going to become the dominant market leader in rare earth elements. They were really looking very far into the future, because they saw where these metals would be needed, and they saw the technologies and the stuff that was coming. It was very, very, forward thinking of them. Plus, they happen to have about half of the world rare earths anyway, But one of the key things about it is, so basically, China's the dominant market leader today. Why? Because they decided they would be a generation ago. Now, just to give you an example, there's one mine in North America, in the US, that's producing rare earth elements, right? But that one mine still today sends the raw materials to China for refining. So not only does China have 85% of the production and the supply, they're about a generation ahead of the rest of the world in the refining. And why is that important? It's important because you won't find rare earths in abundance anywhere. They're always a byproduct in the mining of another raw material. So just to give you an idea, gallium is a byproduct of mining aluminum, or aluminium, we say here in Europe. I have to say it in both European and North. We say aluminium, you say aluminum. So that's why as well supply can be limited, because like the entities that mine aluminum, they're not going to suddenly mine a load more and have an oversupply, which would affect their price just to get more gallium. So it's a tricky situation all around, and China is right on top of it. Now that's all going to change. Again, if you're looking at Google Alerts, you'll see that the US and the EU and other developing nations have decided, right, we have to wean ourselves off this dependence from China. And they're going to do that. For example, that article in the Wall Street Journal I mentioned, it had a very good 8-minute video, and it'd be a very good tutorial for somebody thinking of investing in rare earths, because it showed you what happened back in the 80s with China, what they've done, and the situation we're in now today. And the situation we're in today is the rest of the world is going to, over the next 10, 20 years, wean their independence off China, or their dependence, I should say. Now, one of the things that's going to be affected, of course, is price. Just at a glance, it's going to be at least 25%, 30% more expensive to do it in the US or Europe, probably because they'll do it more sustainably. So either way, you're looking at, right now we're looking at increase in demand. China, the dominant market leader, and the rest of the world sort of trying to catch up. So the next 3, 5, I would say 10 years are going to be very good for investors.
Love it. What, speaking of investors, what does the reporting process look like? So somebody who has invested with Strategic Metals Invest, like, are they going to get a quarterly report on how their investments are doing? Is it monthly? Just what does that communication look like?
Sure. Well, we receive prices twice a week. The prices literally do change daily, because these metals, unlike gold or silver, they have an intrinsic value. They're being bought and sold every day. So what I do is we've created a Google sort of a sheet where each client will get a individual. They get the pricing obviously that they paid. They'll have their invoices, and we update that weekly, and it automatically adjusts, the percentage, so they can see right away that week what they purchased for and what it is today, and if that's plus 10% or if that's minus 1% or whatever the case might be. So yeah, the clients are updated weekly. Now, in terms of reporting to other jurisdictions, for example, you are the owner of the metals, and you likely will store them in Europe with the sister company. That's important because you want to be able to resell them quickly. So if you own them for a minimum of a year in Germany in this Zolllager, in this duty-free zone, then when you sell them, there's no taxes. So at least in Germany or in Europe, you're not paying any taxes.
So
if you
that's
sell them
something
for a
I don't
year.
even know if I caught that earlier on. You said that, so the bunker is in a duty-free zone?
Well, it's a designated. What you do is, it's the bunker itself is what's called a Zolllager in German, which is what you can do. For example, let's say even if you're in the car business in Germany, if you were importing, I don't know, Corvettes or something, the port in the US or like Switzerland is a duty-free zone. It's a Zolllager, but you can also create one inland, so you could ship the car inland. You can have it, and it's only once the vehicle is bought or about to be sold to a third party. For example, what a lot of dealers in Germany do is they sell cars, high-end BMWs off to the Middle East. So you get Middle Eastern buyers come in and they'll buy a batch. So there's no need for them to pay taxes because they're leaving the country. So yeah, to answer your question, sorry, the vault is a duty-free zone. So the purchase and sale is completely tax-free if you hold them for a minimum of a year.
Okay, wow. And so only a year hold is a minimum. Man, I had it's like a bunch of questions going through there. Now I'm trying to think which one I want to go with first. So I guess tell us, what does that look like as far as getting the funds to Strategic Metals Invest? ACH payment? Is crypto a way that people can purchase metals? What does that look like?
Not crypto yet. I have asked my partner in Germany, would they have a client in Panama, actually, a Canadian fella who wants to put a substantial investment in, but he wants to use crypto, but they haven't as of yet. And I'll just mention, just before I answer that question, and this is important in terms of safety and security as well, is this is really beneficial to the investor, I think, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the investor. And what that is, Adam, is that Tradium in Frankfurt, always bear in mind and always remember that primarily their business is they buy and sell metals. Now, just to give you an idea, one of their clients is Siemens in Germany. Siemens is the largest industrial manufacturer in Germany. They have assets of over 50 billion. I mean, it's a multinational conglomerate. So every single month, Siemens place an order for metals with Tradium. Now, Tradium, even though this buying metals is a side business, they will never do anything to jeopardize that primary business they have. Do you know what I mean? They just can't do it. It's too important, and these blue chip companies and governments that they deal with, they're not going to want to have any dealings with a company if something silly is written up on the internet, like, oh, I bought these metals and I lost money, or so they will not do anything to jeopardize their primary business, which is a huge benefit to the investor. They're very conservative, completely transparent and open about everything, right? Now, how the purchase works is, I'm a sales partner. I'm a commercial partner of Tradium, so I don't receive any funds. Basically, I would run through the sale, if you will, the before, during, and up to the point of closure with the client. And then let's say you, for example, decide, okay, Louis, I want to get $50,000 of, give me 5 metals that are connected with, aviation or modern technology. So what would happen then is I would instruct Tradium to send you an offer. You'll receive an offer from them. It's like a pro forma invoice. It'll detail the price you're paying per kilogram. It'll give you the purity levels. It'll give you the case numbers. It'll give you the full history of those metals. That's important as well when it comes to resale, that they stay in their original packaging, if you will, before they go to Siemens or before they go to Apple or whoever it might be. So when you receive the offer, pretty much at that stage, based on our conversations, you'll already know, what you're getting and what the price is going to be. And you just have to acknowledge that and say, yes, I accept the offer. And then Tradium will send you an invoice with wiring instructions, and then you wire the funds directly to them in Germany. They'll receive the funds, and then they'll send you a proper certificate of ownership with an invoice paid, and then also what they call the pool credit, meaning you'll get a sort of an invoice from the storage facility to show your metals are now in storage, and this is the quantity is repeated again, So that's how it looks. And then after the sale, the storage fees are 2% a year. They don't bill you for the storage until the second quarter. So you won't receive any invoice for storage for about 6 months after that. And then you can just pay that annually.
Got it. I'm curious, you mentioned earlier that the vault size has now been tripled from what it once was. So what is the plan, if you know, for Tradium? Once they fill that up, are they going to increase the size again? Is it kind of like you got to act now because they know this is it? This is the only storage they're going to move forward with? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously there is a limited amount you can store, but they have made a huge investment. There's plenty of storage there. And also keep in mind that they are selling metals daily anyway, whether that be to the US Department of Defense for, there's 3/4 of a ton of rare earth metals in one F-35 fighter jet, in just one. Never mind, other, stealths and helicopters and, battle cruisers. It's unbelievable. Where they are, critically needed. One of the reasons is they're high resistance.
As we get more and more robots in the world, that's probably another these metals, right?
Well, no, you're exactly right. And one of the reasons they're look, 5 years ago, when I first heard about this, I thought, oh, this is an interesting store of wealth. It's safe, it's secure, they have an intrinsic value, and the exit is guaranteed. Not that I was nonchalant about it, but it was a good store of wealth. It's a whole different story today. The world has shifted, and these metals are playing a part. For example, indium, there's a new technology, it's not on the market yet, but indium, because of its capability to transfer electricity into movement, right? Indium is going to play a part in, for example, the Fitbits we wear and the smartphones, and also now what you call a wearable medical device. In about 3 to 4 years from now, they won't need to be charged anymore independently. The person wearing them will charge them, and that can only happen because of indium. So that's one example of what you're talking about. Wow. Another one is this, look, it's just, climate change and climate crisis and greener energy. It's on our radar for, the last 15, 20, maybe 30 years, right?
It's not going anywhere either,
Yeah, but in the last 2 years with COVID, I think maybe is one of the reasons for it is, for example, just to give you an idea, in the last month alone, BMW in Germany announced they want to source 20 billion euros of raw materials for electric cars. Now, what they mean by source is they want to stockpile because they see bottlenecks coming ahead. Now, that 20 billion are not all rare earths, but they're going to be a huge part of that. Ford Motor Company in the US, again, you can Google this and you'll see this is all very recent. They just announced the largest single investment they've ever made in their history. And what it is they're building what they call mega campuses of factories that will build only electric cars. So every car manufacturer in the world between now and 2030 is going electric. So can you just getting the idea now? Can you imagine how much neodymium is needed for that? That's
A
where
lot.
that's why it's such a that's
Yeah.
why they're up 24% this year.
Yeah.
I'll give you my prediction, right? And again, I'm not an investment advisor. This is just metals, right?
Yeah. Don't worry. We got it. We have a disclaimer at the beginning of the show, so you're good.
Okay. But my, between me and you and the listeners, basically, I see like this year, for example, most of our investors have got about 80% return, right? I think over the next 5 years, we'll 5x, and over the next 10 years, we'll 10x. Now, after that, I don't know, because after that, Europe and the US may have caught up. But definitely in the next 5 or 10 years, this is just a great, great investment. And you know what's lovely about it as well is it's a bit like forestry or even crypto, maybe, that if you want to liquidate and the price isn't good, keep it. You can store these metals indefinitely. You can keep them
Yeah.
for 50 years if you want,
Yeah. Yeah. Very exciting. Thank you, Louis, for kind of being the English messenger. And now that's permeating through my world as well. So we got to wind it down here, but I do have, I guess, just two quick questions for you, because I don't know if I missed it. But one, how did you first build this relationship with Tradium? And then two, just kind of give us an idea of what's the worst case scenario if this all just kind of fails.
Sure.
What does that look like?
Excellent. Yeah.
How did you meet him in worst case scenario?
Good stuff. So as you know, I was in Panama and I was working with a lot of North Americans, mostly on people who are interested in coming to either mostly Panama, but also Nicaragua, Belize, and Colombia. A lot of people are interested in Colombia now, rightly so. So I ended up sort of doing a lot of due diligence for not just for myself, but for Live and Invest Overseas, International Living, Sovereign Society, a couple of other companies like that who were checking out property developers and things. So I built up a database, of people as well that I had worked with and I had helped along the way. And one of them actually, who was visiting me, told me about this company in Germany he'd heard about, and he was checking it out. And so he was telling me about it, rare earths, and China has this monopoly, and this, that, and the other. So I did my own due diligence, and my next trip to Europe, I went to meet him in Frankfurt in 2017, and I went to the vault. Obviously you've got to touch it and feel it. So that's how I met, and then I always wanted to work with them since then, but at the beginning I couldn't because they didn't have the storage capacity, and they were taking customers but not sales partners. So I said, as soon as you're taking sales partners, as soon as your vault is done, let me know. And that's how that worked out, Then
Well, I just want to highlight that too. That really says a lot, that this isn't something that just popped up within the past few months. Louis has been working at this for the past at least 7 years, really. Or I'm sorry, 4 years.
Yeah, well, I invested myself in 2017, and I heard of them first in 2015, but I didn't get to Europe until 2017, and I've been invested since then. Now, what could go wrong? I don't even know if wrong is the right word, because nothing can go wrong in the sense that you can't fake a vault in Germany worth 10 million euros, right? It's all real and it's all exists, but because they have an intrinsic value, they can go up and down in price. So personally, I feel nobody, I haven't lost money since I invested, and I don't know anybody who has. What could happen though is, for some reason, demand for one particular metal could just dissipate, could go away, and there could be an oversupply of indium all of a sudden, and the price obviously is going to level off. Or you could have a case where there could be an overproduction. That's the only two things that where there could be a downside is where demand decreases and there's a lot of that particular metal on the market, and or in the other case, there's an overproduction for whatever reason or another, new mine comes on the market or something like that. Either way, though, both of them are remedied by, I suppose we could use the crypto term hodl. If you're able to hodl at that point, you're okay, because you can just wait it out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that's again helpful to know, like the crypto reference you threw in there too. So before we wind it down here, Louis, is there anything else that maybe we didn't get a chance to touch on that you wanted to cover?
There probably is. I mean, there usually is, isn't there? Let me think. I think you might have covered it all, actually, Adam.
Yeah. And I think that, so if anyone wants to follow up and get in touch with you, one, you can reach out to me. As I mentioned, I'm working with Louis now. And if you'd like to reach out to him directly, which, as you can see, probably from this interview, if you are looking to get like some granular due diligence type of questions answered, Louis probably would be your guy. Happy to have a talk with you if you want to, though. So my email is adam@carswell.io. You guys know that. And then Louis, what's your email?
Louis, Louis, at strategicmetalsinvest.com.
There we go. I'll make sure we get that here in the comments on Facebook too. And Louis, this has been a blast. I'm happy we got to connect and do this because it was a lot of fun. Long story short, it's a lot of fun. What would be your one parting piece of wisdom or advice for our viewers or listeners?
Well, you know what it would be, Adam, is, in the spiritual realm, if we say, like, we still live in the age of miracles, Now, taking that across, a similar sort of a statement about this is, we still live in an age, if you just look at crypto, I mean, people have made a lot of money, become millionaires from crypto. And 10 or 15, 20 years ago, the way it's funny, we think, I wish I had been around then, and I wish I had been there for the dot-com boom and stuff like that. Every now and again, and maybe every generation, there comes along an opportunity, that's real and that investors can benefit from. And this is one of those opportunities. The way they say, sometimes the best investment you make is the one that you don't invest in, right? To flip that around, sometimes the best investment or the worst investment you make is the one you didn't really look into, or the one that you didn't really do the due diligence on. Or, there's a principle out there, which is a sort of a bar to all information, and it sort of guarantees to keep us or me in everlasting ignorance. And what it is, it's that principle of contempt before investigation. And this investment, if anybody's interested, should be investigated, because everything, all the boxes are ticked. You own the asset. It's safe and secure. There's an intrinsic value. There's a demand for them, and people just don't know about it. And I'll finish. I know it's hard to get an Irish person to shut up once we get started, Adam, but I'll finish with this. I am in Europe at the moment, but I will be, back in Panama or different parts of the world. It's not all, if somebody's thinking of investing, come to Frankfurt. I'll meet you there. I'll bring you to the vault. You'll meet the people. You'll touch it, feel it. You have to do diligence. That's one great way to do it. Have a couple of good nights out in Frankfurt and check out the vault,
Yeah, not a bad offer at all. Hopefully we get some visitors to Frankfurt and a reason to go there. I wouldn't mind tagging along as well. So
I'm sure me and you will be in Frankfurt before the end of next year, Adam. I'll bet any money on it, and we'll be in the Irish pub in Sachsenhausen, looking over the river on a Saturday evening. I'm sure of it.
It all starts with the imagination. From there, things take form. So I will not stop you from creating that that experience. Good stuff, yeah. Louis. Well, thank you so much for investing your most valuable resource here today, your time. Same thank you goes to our listeners. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, thank you for joining us here as well. And yeah, Louis, your email one more time. It's louis@strategicmetalsinvest.com, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is here in the Facebook comments. That'll be in the show notes. Courtney, thank you for all the hard work you do on the show notes. Good stuff. And yeah, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 188 of Dream Chasers. We were joined by Louis O'Connor. I was going to say, well, he is actually the Liberland representative to Panama. And also, as we talked about here today, the founder of Strategic Metals Invest. So reach out to him and also reach out to me if you have any interest. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.